Hey, welcome back. As you just saw in the preview, got 151 pieces that have been painted or cleaned up or in some form of ready to go back on. I still have 56 pieces that are left on the other table. Most all of that is the speed control gears and the secondary drum drive. I will get to that soon. The speed control gears, that'll be the very last thing I do. I want to get this thing up and going and we'll go from there. Okay, the last video that you saw was the tailstock being put together. By the time you see this video, you will be about a week behind in what actual progress is. So those of you that are on my Facebook page, you've already seen a little bit more progress than what you're going to see in this video here. But I will keep the videos coming, and I'm hoping in my time frame that in 2 to 3 more weeks I will have this thing up and running and actually turning something. In YouTube land, you're probably 4 to 5 weeks before you're going to see that. We'll just see how it all plays out. I'm going to do the power feed in one video, which is what you're getting ready to see now. Then the headstock will be in another video, and then from there we have to go to figuring out the drive unit, getting this 5 horsepower 3-phase motor attached to it, the variable speed. I had contemplated putting the secondary drive and the motor down on the bottom underneath, but because of the metal shavings and everything else, if I do that, then I'll have to build a cabinet around that. So I'm not 100% sure what I'm going to do with that. I know I don't want it leaning way out the back, because I don't want to have to pull this thing that far out away from the wall. And I'm not so sure that I want to have something that's 7 feet tall in here and have the weight of that 5 horsepower motor and everything else up there. Although I really doubt that that secondary drum drive and a 5 horsepower motor up on top of that thing is going to even remotely make this thing unstable. So that may end up being the way that I have to go for practicality reasons, but we'll just have to see what happens. For now, my goal is to try to get it underneath, so I'll get my belt on that drum when I put that together, and I'll drop it down through the bottom, and if it doesn't work, then I'll just have to thread it up through the top. Anyway, I'll quit babbling now, and we'll get to putting this power feed together. I had some paint on the inside of that gear right there, so made it a little rough to get it on there, but that just made it a tighter fit. It's a keyed gear anyway, so I don't mind. And since I didn't actually take pictures of this thing, some of this I'm guessing at. It appears to me that there's one of those things missing. Alright, I'm going to have to think about that a little bit. Told you there was another one of those. It had gone off the shelf and dropped down into the bottom of the parts washer. So, now I'm pretty sure I've got this going in the direction it's supposed to be going in. Okay, so this is one of the issues that I had when I took this thing apart. This is the drive that runs down the rack. This, they've tried to weld it to the gear. They tried doing all kinds of crap. They tried flattening it out and it still rocked. I flattened it out a little bit more. I intend to try to remake this at some point. For now, I just need it to work. They did cut a key in the gear. So I flattened it out with that key in the gear somewhere around here. I took a hardened bolt and ground it to fit in there. So I'm just going to drive it down in there and lock this together for now. And I will try to remake that later and make it a press fit. I believe that'll work. What the hell, man? Oh man, scratch. Was not right, I'm a dumbass. It needed to be in neutral. Well, that's going to about do it for this week. Everything's functioning on it. It'll need to be tuned in once everything's put together and running. It's going back and forth. When it gets back here to this back rack, the short section that had a couple of teeth missing out of it, it does get a little bit tight back here, but I couldn't even get it back that far when I first brought it in here. This thing had a shim in it, and I wasn't going to put it back in there because I thought it needed to be up tighter and it wouldn't pull up tighter. The holes are off a little bit in order to make that happen. It feels okay at the bottom, but when you check the thickness of it, it does grow as it comes back, and that's what's causing my binding when I'm trying to bring it back. So once I get this headstock done and get power to this Acme and lock up these half nuts right here, run this thing back and forth a little bit. If it doesn't loosen up back here, I'll probably end up taking that back piece of that rack off and opening those holes up just a little bit so that I can get that thing up a little bit tighter. But the reality of it is, I'm only going to be up here in this first foot or two. I don't see me back here in 6 feet. I don't see me tooling anything like that. I have no plans for anything like that. The only regret I have is I wish I would have come up with some kind of design to put right here or some way right here to open this up and polished out that metal, because this handle for these half nuts is already trying to take off some paint. Had to have some scratches at some point in time. The reality of it is, I put this thing together to use. I'm just trying to make it look good while I'm in the process of making it to where I can use it. Anyway, I'll get started on this headstock over here, And we're getting there. We're getting closer. That'll be next week's video. As always, please comment, like, and if you're not already subscribed, subscribe. And help me out. Share these around. And one last quick thing. A good friend of mine, Billy McCord, he made a comment to me about who was president when this lathe was built. I didn't know. I would have had to have Googled it. Anyway, for pride, not prize, let's see who the first person is that can comment the president that was in office the year this lathe was built. And when you do, be honest. Did you Google it or did you know? Anyway, y'all have a good week. Get out in your shops and make something, and be safe.